After a little over 2 years of waiting, the Big Doors update has finally dropped with a whole new set of rooms, or, well, doors to explore. This update, as expected, is massive, with a new cast of enemies as well as returning ones. If you haven't played this update yet, I highly recommend you doing it before watching this video. One of the things I like the most about this game is that every time you die to an entity, you learn something new to avoid them next time, therefore getting better at the game with each attempt. That's why I'd recommend you playing this game without any guide if you haven't already. Now, without anything else to say, and for those who are still here, let's go on a journey to find out if Doors Floors 2 lives to expectations. This new floor wastes no time in teaching you new mechanics. As you may remember from the first floor, the elevator you were riding fell down, leaving you and your partners deep down into underground mines. In the very first room you find yourselves, you have to turn on a generator by finding new fuses to light it up. Once you do so, you're able to press the big red button and continue forward. On paper, I really like this mechanic. It's easy to understand and requires you to look around the room, much like the keys did in the previous floor. Then, when you walk into the next room, you find the second main mechanic of this floor, the minecart. The minecart's mechanic requires you to push it and it moves forward. Pretty straightforward. There is also a lever near the rails that allows you to change the direction the minecart will head to. I gotta say, although I have some issues with this mechanic in later parts of the game, these first two rooms share an almost perfect design from a game's perspective. The introduction to this mechanic is smooth and straightforward. At no point are you required to stop on your tracks and read boring instructions or anything that could ruin the game immersion. The only thing holding you back from going forward is your own speed and knowledge of the game. I think these very first rooms are very well crafted. Right after our tutorial, you get sent to the actual game. As you might know already, the Doors map is generated randomly every time you enter a new run, so you have to adapt to whatever you're up to in the fight. This creates a really nice gameplay loop that allows tension and release every time you fight a new entity. And speaking of which, this new floor introduces a few new entities, these being Giggle, the Gloombats, and Grumble, upon which I'll expand further later on. Giggle is a creature similar in shape to Screech from the previous floor. This creature hangs in the ceiling of the mines, waiting for someone to pass right below it. If this happens to occur, it will stick into the victim's face until forced out. I really like this mechanic. Giggle makes a giggle noise every time you pass near it, making it a clear sign to be alert of the ceilings in that particular room. Also, you can shine a light on its face to stun it for a while. Not only that, but if you have any players near you, they can help you stick it out of your face, which practically nullifies its damage. This entity in particular is very well designed and I kinda love it. Although it might not look like much, it can be very deadly when combined with other entities, upon which I'll dive further in a moment. The second entity introduced in this floor are the Gloombats, which I gotta be honest, I didn't quite enjoy this entity as much as the other. The mechanic is actually pretty self-explanatory if you are paying attention. The Gloombats destroy every light source they find, which might very well be you in case you forget to turn off your flashlight. Also, it's a nice time to remember Doors is a horror game, and usually being left in the dark can add a lot to the eerie atmosphere. I also think this entity is also pretty well designed overall. The only thing I kinda hate about it is the sound they make.
No sé.
It's kinda loud, but I get the idea is to be a red herring to hide the sound of Rush in case they happen to attack together. And, oh yeah, speaking of which, Rush and all of the rest of the entities of the first floor make a return in the mines, and they act pretty much the same as they did in the first floor, but with a harder twist in their mechanics. I actually love this idea. It tests the knowledge you gain in order to beat the first floor and amplifies it, knowing very well you had to master these techniques to be here in the first place. Rush acts the same as the first floor, but it's much harder to know how far it actually is from your current room, making you decide between entering a closet early and getting punched out by Hyde, or waiting too long and risking getting caught. Hyde attacks much quicker on this floor, and after you leave your hiding spot, it will prevent you from entering the same closet again. Ice now teleports near you, Figure now appears in much smaller rooms, and 6 Rays requires you to make some pretty tight jumps, and ride which I can only describe as a roller coaster. I'll also touch upon this later. Out of all the entities, there's only one that really bothers me a lot. Screech was modified to appear anywhere, anytime, it just appears behind it. Screech has never been a hard entity to avoid. Previously, it only appears in dark rooms, which made it predictable to catch. Now that it spawns everywhere, it's just annoying. The spawn rate was severely low in the mines, but it still makes it a pretty weird addition. If I had to make a change to Screech, it would be to make it appear just in the dark again, especially since the gloom bats are a pretty common appearance that already makes you wander in the dark a nice chunk of the rooms. That way it'll feel much better and it doesn't remove that much of the challenge, which, by the way, this second floor really had on its lunch. Yeah, remember how I said I loved the new change on difficulty of the entities? Well, it really wasn't like that at the start. When Floors 2 just released, the difficulty was a bit overtuned. It wasn't atrociously bad, it was just a little over the top. For starters, back then, every closet you entered had the previous library mechanic, where you had to play this rhythm game with your heartbeat. It was a little hard to understand, but to be fair, I liked this one a lot. It allowed you to stay longer inside a closet as long as you had the skill to last long enough in this minigame, which I think is a great idea for rewarding skill. Sadly, this mechanic was removed in the first patch, and I get what they did. There were no indications you could exit the closet anytime you wanted. The very first times I also thought this mechanic was just really hard for some reason, and I had to beat it in order to leave. Regardless, it'd be really cool if they managed to bring it back in some update. Also, for some reason, they even removed it from the hotel, which I don't really understand, but it's okay. Also, back then the entities used to stack, even at the beginning of the game. It was very common to have a 3-entity combo just waiting for you to leave the closet, which is kinda messed up. You could call it a skill issue though, I'm not very good at it. All of these issues I had with the game back then were literally fixed 1 or 2 days after the update came out, so I literally have nothing to rant about now. I really appreciate that the devs put so much effort into fixing these issues even after the update was already launched, and it's something that I really do respect. When I played this Floor 2 update for the first time, I kinda felt that the devs put too much effort into making something new that they forgot why the first floor was so successful in the first place. It is because of the simplicity of the concept. Walking, opening doors, and hiding at the right times. The game managed to create an almost perfect gameplay loop that anybody could understand, and they managed to keep it fresh by adding new challenges that expand upon that concept. Open doors, but while in the dark. Open doors, but while running. Open doors, but while being as silent as possible. With this in mind, the developers had a really hard task. Make a sequel out of it. How do you evoke the same feeling while expanding even further on what you already set the stage up to? Of course, the easy answer is the obvious. Make the rooms bigger, make the enemies harder, but Elsplash was not happy with that answer. Sure, at first, I felt like it. I thought the second floor was just a big rehash of the first one, without the challenges. However, then I finally stumbled upon this.
Derecha.
Ah, hermano, le perdí la mano.
Izquierda. Derecha. Derecha.
Ahora aquí viene la cinemática.
Temas serios. Abajo. Derecha. Izquierda. Abajo.
No, no, muy bien, muy bien, muy bien. No.
Derecha. Derecha y abajo. Sí. Llegamos.
Aquí hay que presionar la OLN.
This second race takes everything that made the first one good and takes it to even greater heights. I love everything about this, from its side jumps to the falling rocks, to finally jumping inside a minecart and riding it, which to me felt a lot like the Donkey Kong Country minecart sections, so they had me instantly in love with the idea. And although I adore this section of the game, it's nothing more than a bridge, literally, of what is about to come. After making your way through the underground railways, you find yourself face to face with whatever this is. If you have been paying attention, you may have noticed in the entities section I mentioned there were 3 new entities. However, I only talked about 2 of them. That's because the third new entity, the Grumble, is a creature that only appears in this section of the game. Right off the bat, I want to mention I love the Grumble's design. I particularly have a weakness for creatures that are a ball with eyes in a mouth, but that's not everything I like about it. First of all, the game makes sure you encounter Giggle at the very least once, which might very well be on your face. This makes you to stay alert of this entity in particular, only to minutes later find an enormous version of the same enemy. After arriving at this sort of station, the objective is clear. find and activate all of the terminals, and get out of there. Granted, this will not be easy. The nest is guarded by multiple grumbles that won't stop chasing you once spotted. The grumbles also have a weakness you can exploit. They get stunned if you flash your light directly at them. The game doesn't explicitly tell you this. However, if you make the connection, you may remember the giggles also get stunned for a while if you flash your light at them. The very first time I played this section with my friends, we felt kinda lost. The nest is a big environment with interconnected paths, making it absurdly easy to get lost and caught. Not to mention, there are quite a few dead ends you can't escape from. To be honest, I didn't enjoy this section too much the first few times. It felt like it took so long to find the terminals, only to get camped by the grumbles outside the door, thus leaving you unable to do anything. This is exactly what I meant when I said I first felt the devs put too much effort into trying to create something new that I forgot what made the original so good in the first place. The more I played through that section, however, made the experience so much different. I felt I was slowly learning the nest's layout. I was also able to follow the grumbles much easier and even getting out of tricky situations.
Mati me está mirando.
The first few times I played this with my friends, this section took around 15 to 30 minutes to beat, which is why it felt a little drawn out. Now, however, it's unlikely that we take longer than 10 minutes. And this section feels great to replay. All of the nest section rewards you for your skill and knowledge of the game. And doesn't that sound familiar? That's exactly the formula the hotel uses to keep you engaged and to make it feel so rewarding when you finally know the way to beat it. This section is brilliantly planned, and I adore it. It's not perfect, of course, but even regarding that, this section just feels that good to play once you know what you're doing. It never feels free, yet the more you play, the more you have control of the situation. After finally beating what I think is the best section of the game, you find yourself at the shop once again, as a small greeter for the rest of the rooms to come. I gotta say, these last few rooms are a little underwhelming. Not bad by any means, just a little emptier than you might expect. Of what I can see, however, it's clear the developers intended for people to progress somewhat quickly to what will be the climax of the chapter, which I can understand after the roller coaster, literally, that the last few sections were. After progressing through what seems to be the sewers of the mines, you stumble once again face to face with Zeke. The race, as I mentioned before, has a few brief changes to keep you on your toes. This time, you have to quickly find the correct pipe to progress before Zeke catches up to you. I find this mechanic pretty fun as well. The highlight of this race, however, is not the race itself.
No.
It is what comes right after it. Throughout the game, it is implied Zeke is made of some liquid or something similar. Now, we can see in full glory what this thing is supposed to look like.
Hermano, se ve muy bien en primera persona.
This floor's finale makes you confront Zeke in its more bizarre form so far. I gotta say, I enjoy this fight, if you can call it that. The first phase is intimidating, but it doesn't directly harm you unless you jump into the danger, which you have to do in order to beat the boss. Just like the intro tutorial, this is a great example on how to teach your players a mechanic without showing some boring text on screen or taking them by the hand. The second phase adds some hands that start chasing you, and in the third phase, some type of larvae start jumping around, pushing you to the liquid surrounding you. Overall, I really like this fight. Gotta say, it's not too challenging, but I can understand why. Making a brand new challenge at the end of the game can be a risky move by the developers, as players might feel it's unfair to lose almost an hour of progress to a new mechanic that hasn't been seen before. Although, that's not entirely true. The whole game has been preparing you for this fight in particular, as there are no new mechanics to be found here. It's quite the opposite. The previous two races with Zeke, you have to make tight jumps in order to stay alive, and quickly decide which is the correct way to turn. This boss fight is conceptually the same, but with a different execution. Once you finally spin the last valve, Zeke is drained and the room is emptied, leaving you free to escape once again. And with that, and a cliffhanger of what looks to be the next chapter, the second floor of doors comes to its end. This floor has been a ride to explore, no pun intended. I really like the risk the developers took in order to make this floor interesting and stand out from the previous one. This task was particularly important, as this new update has been hyped for a little over a year now, and expectations were outstandingly high. I was one of those people. I was extremely hyped when we finally got a release date, especially since the development process is pretty well hidden for the average viewer. I didn't really know what to expect. So, after everything that we went through, did the mines manage to live to expectation? To me, it absolutely did. I already mentioned everything I love about this floor. The new environments are great. I overall like the new twist on the entities. The mid-boss and final boss are both amazing additions, and the atmosphere and everything just feels amazing to watch. A complaint I've heard a lot about this floor is that it's too short, or that it has too little content for such a long development time. I don't think floor 2 is short at all. If anything, it takes around an hour for the average person to beat, and that is not counting the many deaths that will occur in the process. Plus, if the only bad thing you can say about a product is that you wish there was more about it, I'd say that's a pretty good thing. Without anything else to say, thank you all for watching until the end of the video. It's been a while since I've made this, and if you like this, maybe I'll keep doing it every once in a while. That's gonna be it for today though, and again, thanks for sticking by. See you.